Welcome to Fish Wrap TV, episode 16. Today is Friday, May 14th, 2021. I'm your host, Janie Hansen, here as usual with Q Lair for the market update this week. It's a dreary day here in Blue Earth, Minnesota, and pretty dreary week in the markets for anyone long grains. In this episode, we'll be covering corn, soybeans, wheat, and wrapping up with the inflation story. All right, first up, Q, what's happening in corn?
Well, we had WASDE, of course, as we discussed last week, came out on Wednesday, and it was absolutely brutal. It caught the market completely by surprise. We were expecting the corn in Brazil with the drought down there to be dropped from 109 to 110, all the way down to 103, 102. And USDA came in between 106 and 107, and that was all she wrote. I mean, it was instant limit down.
Yeah.
Right after that thing printed.
Yeah, I mean, for a wild Wednesday.
It was a wild Wednesday. And it traded, hundreds of thousands of contracts. Corn locked down the limit. There was 200,000 contracts for sale down the limit. And it was actually trading 48 cents lower on the day with the options. So it was brutal, unexpected, and away she went. So as you can see on the graph, that is a brutal spike down. And now the work is going to be difficult to get new highs put out from here.
Mm-hmm. So with all that going on this week, what was China doing? Did that impact the corn market?
Oh yeah. What China's doing, and I will tell this to anybody who's willing to listen. I've traded with the Chinese since 1980. They are the best traders. They may be commies, but they're great traders. And what they've been doing is they've been rolling out of old crop into new crop. So what that means is that all of this money that they took on the way up in their old crop, all they're doing now is selling that and buying new crop and just rolling the commitments forward.
So take the money, put it in your pocket.
They're putting it in the People's Republic Bank, as we say. But I've seen this happen over and over again when they get a big run like this, and then they don't really need to get the cargoes in right now. And we've talked about this as the crop is ticking closer now to harvest. And you have to support, $1.50 to $2 inverse. Are you prepared to pay 2 to 3 cents every day to get the corn today as opposed to tomorrow? And the Chinese are just rolling forward, and they're going to leave these longs, at the dance without a partner.
Yeah, still holding their dance card.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what about ethanol?
Ethanol broke off too. It's been a real situation with what we call demand destruction. We had a situation where a pipeline got hacked, and the entire East Coast and the Southeast United States was having gas lines. And I'm sitting there going, this is impossible. I mean, gas was $1.80 not 10 months ago, $1.80. Now it's at $3 and there's lines. And like 70% of gas stations in, I think it was Georgia, ran out of gas. And people were driving around putting gas in balloons or something like this. It's just like, just waiting for a Darwin Award winner. But it was, what's happened is that, we call this when the fever breaks. And it's just one of those things where all of a sudden now it's like all of a sudden it's raining like it is here in Minnesota right now. And then, the Chinese are rolling forward. So it's just like now we got nothing but good news, and now all of a sudden the news is turning, the worm is turning. And now it's as we say now, the longs have to prove this thing. And they are the wrong people, because we've been talking how short the commercials are this thing. And we don't have the commitments of traders out yet. I'm sure it's out right now, but we don't have access in real time yet. But listening to what's happened, this is a real problem for the longs, especially if we get more rain coming through the Corn Belt.
Mm-hmm. So from ethanol to biofuels, what's happening in that market?
Well, we've been talking about soybean oil for months now, and they've been crushing beans for oil, and all of a sudden there was just no bid in canola, and they just dropped the hammer on both of them. So canola is down 15% in this week, 15%. So that would be like a $2 break in beans. And like I said, it's good until it ain't. And and somebody's holding a dance card. And the thing is, it may still be good, but now you got to prove yourself, because 850 canola is a lot different than 1,000, Canadian dollars a ton. So, it was a brutal move this week. There was a lot of money changing hands, and of course the margins went up. The clearing corp is going to force the, what I call the widows and orphans out of this market, and it's going to fall into strong hands, both sides.
So the WASD report looked pretty neutral for soybeans. Why did they get crushed? No pun intended.
Well, sometimes when things like what happened in corn and wheat happens, they just take the whole shooting match out the back door and just shoot it. And that's what happened to beans. And we're just not getting the traction with beans that we did like a month and a half ago. That's why we were talking about beans up front every week until we started talking about corn like 3-4 weeks ago. And the thing is that the story in beans is just not as compelling at the moment, because the Chinese have their cargoes lined up, and if they start doing in beans what they've done in corn, honey, bar the door.
So with the rain here now, that should be taking pressure off some of the areas here in the Corn Belt. Plus, it looked like it rained in North Dakota, too. What does that mean for wheat?
Wheat got taken out just like corn did, only probably worse.
Oh, really?
Yes. We got a situation now where the harvest is imminent in south of Interstate 70, across the red wheat areas, from Memphis south to the hard wheat areas in the Texas area, heading into Oklahoma. And what that means is that the impetus to be long anything in the grains, that whole story got shut down with corn, because it's like what do they call it, rising tides. And corn was really the lake that really floated everything. And now all of a sudden it's been, it's in question as to how powerful this thing is. So
yeah, the tide went out.
The tide went out. And as Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you can tell who's been swimming naked. And that was the corn longs this week.
Yeah. So there was a brutal CPI report, that's Consumer Price Index report, that came out this week, much higher than expected.
Yes. And the thing is that even, here's the ridiculous thing. It came out like 4.67%, which is, we haven't seen anything like that for over a decade.
Yes, that means 4.6% jump.
Yeah. But of course, we've seen lumber go up 600%, copper 100%, corn 75, 80%. These numbers, and it's like,
yeah, those are used in a lot of products.
Yeah, and it's like only 4.6%. And the thing is that everybody knows, but yet it's just a continuing signal that the Fed has lost control of this thing.
Yeah. So, because hasn't the Fed been trying to get to a 2% inflation rate?
Yes. And the thing is, we haven't really talked about this, on the show here, but I suppose it's time to think about this now, is that we had a problem with deflation for quite a while. Not the Japanese kind of deflation, but a deflation where as more and more of your economy is taken up by technology, of course, gets cheaper. And what happens with everything else, it gets more expensive, like land or whatever, it gets more expensive. And when your economy is driven by technology, like the United States is and parts of Europe, it's hard to keep the prices at a stable level. But what's happened is that now we've got the commodities driving a huge amount of inflationary pressure. And on the opposite side, we have continued technology, AI, and deep learning driving in the other direction. So they've got a mess, and it is clear to me that the Fed does not know what the hell they're doing, and they've lost control of this thing.
So, so lumber, that's, well, I guess, as they say on Twitter, lumber got taken to the woodshed.
Yes, it did this week, and it was the same as corn. Corn, canola, and lumber are just the three commodities that just, who knows what it's really worth. But you and I have talked about this, that the numbers don't work, and when the numbers don't work, and they pull the trap door, then you find out what's really going on with these markets. So even if lumber goes down another 30%, it's still overpriced as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's gone up so much in recent months.
And and it's gone from like 200 to 1,500. That's 700% increase. So that gives you an idea what really the value of the CPI is, because you got houses, and we're actually fixing up a house, and it's just like you can't get 10 boards for what you used to.
Yeah, any of the renovations or new build stuff.
Yes.
Like bidding anything out in the construction industry has been a wild and crazy endeavor.
Yeah, well, 10 2x4s today you could frame a house with that.
Yeah.
With that kind of money back in, just 2 years ago. So, lumber, it's part of this whole narrative that, we hit an inflationary cycle. Everybody got in. Every Yahoo from, Los Angeles to New York that had a hedge fund was buying corn, buying everything. And now they're finding out that now they've got to, they're going to get what we call on Twitter #ownership of this stuff.
Wait, I don't actually want to take delivery on all of those things.
Well, welcome to Chicago for amateurs.
Yeah. So you learned that lesson a few times, right?
Yes, I did. I learned it 40 years ago, and I haven't done it since. Well, I did it once. I'll tell you that story. Yeah. I took delivery of, 2 million bushels. Well, 2 million bushels, 1 million in Chicago, but 1 million in Kansas City. Okay, and the 1 million in Chicago was okay. The 1 million in Kansas City, I got a track delivered in Hutchinson, Kansas, and I go, where the hell's Hutchinson, Kansas? So I had to get a map out to figure out where my wheat was, because I thought I was going to get it delivered in Kansas City. And not only that, but it was not even in an elevator. It was in a train.
Sitting on the cars?
I had a 100-car train sitting there that was mine. And boy, did that one cost me. So I learned that lesson too.
So, well, anything to keep an eye on for next week?
Well, crude continues to have its issues. It's still in the range, but what we're seeing with the Middle East firing up again, with Palestinians, et cetera, we have to keep our eye on that. Also, Croptomize 2021 crop launched for the 2021 season, and it went Wednesday. So feel free to download it. And where do we get it?
That's the hedging model for 2021 crop year in the grains, and you can check that out at croptomize.com. So, all right. Well, thanks for tuning in this week to Fish Wrap TV, and we'll see you next week.